The Mamba mentality simply means trying to be the best version of yourself. That's what the mentality means. It means every day, you're trying to become better. And it's a constant quest. It's an infinite quest. So starting at the age of 2, when I first started playing the game, and on and on and on, I always ask questions. I always try to get better every single day. Like my kids at 2 could do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Right? At 2, I could dribble a basketball. I could shoot a basketball on the Nerf hoop at the house. And I would go to practice with my father. I would observe my father. I'd sit and watch games with him. A lot of things I learned by being around the game. Mm-hmm. Right? So by the age of 6, I was already strategizing versus other 6-year-olds, My parents were great. Growing up, they instilled in me the importance of imagination, of curiosity, and understanding that, okay, if you want to accomplish something, I'm not just going to sit here and say, yes, you can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can, but you have to also put in the work to get there, right? So they taught me that at a really early age, man. And when you grow up as a kid thinking that the world is your oyster, all things are possible if you put in the work to do it, and you grow up having that fundamental belief. I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and here I come playing and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds, or you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How'd you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm gonna love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. From there, I just went to work. And I stayed with it. I kept practicing. And then the next summer I came back, it was a little better. And the summer came back, next summer it was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much,
right,
but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14. And then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals. While they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame.
And then your athleticism, once you have the fundamentals,
exactly,
the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow.
At 13 years old, I played the longer game, because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when the chips are really on the line. So when we played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it? Right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better? Right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win. So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull up jump shot, post game. Right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17 and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem. The passion came from the love for the game. I loved everything about it, like the smell of the ball.
You love the smell of the ball?
Yes, the ball. The smell of like brand new sneakers, like the sound the ball makes when it hits the ground.
Sneakers in the gym.
Sneakers squeaking. Yeah, the ball going through the net, like all those things I love. And so the passion comes from that, because once you have that love, you just want to be a part of this thing all the time.
So when you think about the greatest players of all time, 90-80% of them have God gift, natural talent, ability, body.
Fact.
Right? So Jordan, 48-inch vertical. You have Shaquille O'Neal, right? Then Magic, 6'9" point guard with vision. Kobe, standard. If I give you 6'6" and then took every 6'6" guard in the NBA and NBA history, you would never find him, right? You would never find Kobe because he didn't have big hands, right? He wasn't quick, he wasn't fast. 38-inch vertical, And what he did with that body, it's like you took a S500 and he was pushing it like a Bugatti. That's what we look at. We look at the normal person fighting gods.
Yes. When I was in high school, I used to work out with the 76ers. I used to ask them, what's it like to guard Mike? You know, Mike? You mean Black Jesus? I'm like, what the Black who? Well, we call him Black Jesus. Or you can call him Black Cat. I'm like, I'm gonna call him Mike. That's his name. So the level of fear that he inspired in others was insane. And I would tell him, I said, when I face him, we're gonna go at it. He says, oh, you don't wanna do that. I'm like, what? Man, you don't know me, man. And so when we matched up, I think he understood that. And you know, when I was 18, my first year, he got the best of me a bunch of times. I was right there the next play. You're not intimidating me, I'm not going anywhere. And I think he saw that level of respect, because I think he was the same way at 18 years old. And that common bond is what I think, you know, where our connection was built.
What Kobe Bryant was to me was the inspiration that someone truly cared about the way I played the game or the way that he wanted to play the game. He wanted to be the best basketball player that he could be. And as I got to know him, I wanted to be the best big brother that I could be.
If you play every single day, 2-3 hours, every single day, over the course of a year, how much better are you getting? Most kids will play maybe an hour and a half, 2 days a week. Do the math on that. It's not going to get it done, right? So if you're obsessively training 2-3 hours every single day over a year, over 2 years,
you're accelerating.
You make quantum leaps, man.
He was like, B, if I work out 3 times a day, and all these other guys who are so-called great players work out just for practice, they just work out that 1 time a day. He said, over a 5-year period, they can't catch me. I've worked out that much. I've worked on my body, I've worked on my footwork, I've worked on my shot. So 5-10 years from now, they can't catch me.
What's the least amount of sleep you played a game on?
Sleep.
Is there a story where it's like, you know, no one knows about, where you went and played a game and it was so insane for whatever reasons?
No sleep.
You played a game with zero sleep.
Zero sleep. Zero sleep. It's like, you know, kids, you know, Natalia had a certain, you know, health situation or what have you, and you're staying up all night, and then you got to go out and perform, because fans don't know, teammates don't know, nor do they care, nor should they, that you've been up all night. You got to perform, right? And so you just got to go to work, man. It's respect. That's respect. You have to dance beautifully in the box that you are comfortable dancing in. So like, everybody's box is different. My box was to be extremely ambitious within the sport of basketball. Your box is different than mine, right? Every kid here has their own box, but it doesn't mean that your box isn't as beautiful as mine, right? Everybody has their own. It's your job to try to perfect it and make it as beautiful of a canvas as you can make it. And if you have done that, then you have lived a successful life. You have lived with Mamba mentality. So it doesn't mean you have to go out here and do all of these crazy things. I'll have to be like this person or that person. No, what are you comfortable being? What is it that you want to do with your life? And once you have that, then you try to live it to the best of your ability.
You're playing against the Golden State Warriors. Score is 107-109. You guys are close to getting into the playoffs. You know exactly what happens in the game. You go up, you're about to take your shot, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
Achilles happens, right? How the hell do you tolerate that kind of pain?
You know, I use this. I tell this example, and I think this is the best way to explain it. You know, you have a hamstring injury. You pull your hamstring really, really badly. You can barely walk, right? Let alone play anything, soccer, basketball, volleyball, whatever it is. Can't do anything. Doctor tells you go home, sit up on the couch, rest your hammy. Right? Stay off of it, don't get up, no sudden movements. You're at home, all of a sudden a fire breaks out in the home. Your kids are upstairs, you know, wife is, you know, wherever she may be, you know, it's going down. I'm willing to bet that you're gonna forget about your hamstring, you're gonna sprint upstairs, you're gonna grab your kids, you know, make sure your wife's good, you're getting out of that house. right? Hamstring be damned. You're not gonna feel your hamstring, right? And the reason is because the lives of your family are more important than the injury of your hamstring. And so when the game is more important than the injury itself, you don't feel that damn injury. Not at that time.
We were in Vegas for the start of training camp, and we were getting ready for the Olympics in Beijing. We're going to head to Beijing. And I wanted to establish myself as a young leader on the team by waking up bright and early, day one. So I set my alarm. I make sure I'm up by sunrise. I get out of bed, I put on my gear, and I head downstairs. But when I get there, Kobe's already there with ice packs on his knees, drenched in sweat. Now, it took me a minute to figure it out, but this guy wasn't only awake before me. He had already worked out. He had just played in the finals days earlier. Meanwhile, I'd been off for months and I was still exhausted. What he had done that morning was incomprehensible to me. That dedication he had only days after falling short of an NBA championship. That taught me something I've never forgotten. Legends aren't defined by their successes. They're defined by how they bounce back from their failures.
You got a lot of people paying their hard-earned money to come watch you perform. It's your job to be in shape. It's your job to be strong enough to perform at that level every single night. And as a competitor, I'm not ducking shit. Like, it's not, oh my God, my back hurts, I'm sore, we gotta play Vince Carter and Toronto Raptors tonight. We actually had this happen. We had a game against Toronto in 2000, and Vince was tearing the league up. My back was jacked. But like the perception of that, like what? Kobe's missing the game against Toronto and Vince Carter because man, my back was really spasming. But people will be like, what? Oh, he's ducking Vince. Excuse me? No, I don't think so. So I would be in the layup line like, okay, there's a lot of days where you can rest and recover. Today ain't one of them. Your back can bother you any other day. That shit ain't bothering me today. He gonna have to see me today. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. You always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when like my teammates would say, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice, and like, Nick Van Exel would come up and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, what? Are you okay? What the hell is wrong with you? So like I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So like every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against. Because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. Like I'm fine, You want things to be as perfect as they can be. Understanding that nothing is ever perfect. But the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. Mm-hmm. And what can you do? It's in your control. So control what you can.
You've had one of the most incredible careers, arguably of all time. Made all the money in the world. Got a freaking Oscar now. You've got all these other things happening, and yet you're still waking up, or at least you're in the gym at 4 a.m. working out. And you just turned 40, right? Why still wake up that early and train at this level in your life right now?
Well, I mean, there's several factors for that. Like when I first retired, I let myself go a little bit.
Really? You got a little?
Oh yeah.
Got a little chubby life?
Oh, it was awesome. And then the challenge was, okay, can I get back in shape?
Oh.
And it's really hard because there's no end goal.
There's no game, there's no season, there's
right.
no.
So how do you motivate yourself to do it?
How do you?
And so for me, it was like, okay, I have to aim for something. So I said, I want to aim for size. I want to aim for bulk, right? So that's a tangible thing. I'm going to go for that, right? But then also it's, my children, because like, your kids can't see how hard you work. You go to the office, I come into the studio, they don't really see the effort, right? So how can we teach our children what it means to work hard? Well, you do it through training, right? So when I get up in the morning, my daughter goes with me.
4 a.m.?
4 a.m., my 15-year-old goes with me. Through that process, she understands the value of hard work.
What's your definition of greatness?
I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. I think that's what greatness is or should be. It's not something that lives and dies with one person.
It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. Yeah. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.